Welcome to the WJBM Outdoor Show, brought to you by Midwest Tractor Sales in Jerseyville. We're coming to you from the WJBM studios in Jerseyville, the voice of the Tri-Counties. I'm Aaron Quillen. I operate Monarch Rivers, where the mission is simple: kill big deer. And joining us today, we have non-typical deer recovery, the most trackingest family in all the land. We have Doug, Luke, and Owen. Guys, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, deer season's among us.
It's here.
That's right.
Sure is.
Y'all been out at all?
I've been out a couple times.
Yeah, the boys hit some public land one day and got skunked.
Okay. Well,
That's deer hunting, right?
right. And here's the first cold front, and here we are.
Yeah.
What are we thinking?
It's things are gonna start moving.
Yeah.
We had some. Luke's already found one deer.
Okay.
Sunday night, so he went out and found one. I just went along for the ride, but
Awesome.
good stuff. And we went. I went up to Pike County with some people that have a pup of ours. Lab Tracks Deer Recovery up in by Barry, Illinois.
Okay.
Doing phenomenal with a 3-year-old pup that we had. They got from us, and doing a fantastic job. And we watched them recover a deer. It took about 2 hours and 45 minutes in that heat, but they did a great job. Recovered a nice buck for the guy, so it was good.
Awesome. It was a good one?
Yeah, nice one.
Okay. Yeah, I saw something on Facebook today. Guy looked like he killed a nice one, but I really didn't see a whole lot of, hammers go down this past opener.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen a few big ones here and there, on social media, but nothing close I've heard.
Yeah. Yeah. We had 3 guys for the opener. One guy saw multiple bucks, definitely some shooters in the mix. And it was one of those things that got to about 70. And, the lights went out.
Yeah.
So saw lots of deer out of that setup. It never quite came to fruition. Another guy, we had 3 shooters working the area pretty good.
Nice.
And I got 20 minutes after we left picking them up, a stud was on the camera. And then the next evening, for some reason, I'm all for shooting does, but not in 90 degrees.
Right. Yeah.
2 hours before. And he shot a doe that was drinking out of the water tub at 5:30, and that, kind of made that spot a little bit more difficult to hunt.
Yeah.
And then naturally he gets on the road at, 5:30 in the morning, and one of the shooters is under the stand at 5:20 a.m. that morning. Like, it's just
the chess match has begun, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then the third guy, he was probably, I'd say, the most equipped guy out of the group. He listened, paid attention to kind of what was going on. We put him in a setup on his final evening. So he and his dad hunted 3 nights and 4 mornings, and he saw, what I would say was between a 3 or 4-year-old buck, passed
Nice.
on it. But, for 90 degrees, we ended up with 3 does shot. The one we didn't find, then, each of the guys were in the game. You can't really be mad about that.
Yeah.
You hate to have an offer for the
Hey,
week.
you're seeing
but,
something,
Yeah.
It's tough early, that's for sure.
oh, yeah.
There's so many acorns this year too.
I know.
It's just they're in the woods.
Yeah. But I'm starting to get excited about some of the things that I've always thought sucked.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like October lull. Like, okay, so we got timber, and, okay, let's go where acorns are. Because the
Right.
deer are probably more yarded up in
Oh, yeah.
those areas than they are typically. So you got a higher concentration of deer. All this stuff that's coming out on thermals and thermal hubs has just got me so excited. So
Yeah.
some of that stuff, you've got to have somebody that's flexible and able to, that you're able to work with to go in and do a hang and bang
Yeah.
in 90 degrees on a thermal hub. But all in all, I'm pretty excited for this next group coming in.
Nice.
Yeah. What the deer that you guys just tracked, or the 2 deer that you guys just tracked? What were those deer doing?
So the one was shot on a field edge. I don't exactly know what they were in. It was kind of a messed up story because we were actually at a wedding reception, and I got the call for the guy up in Barry. And I'm like, well, this doesn't make any sense for me to track it. Randy and Karen are right in your backyard. So immediately referred them.
Okay.
And they decided, because of the heat and stuff, it was shot that morning. They said, let's go out that evening. Lo and behold, when they went in, they came in from the opposite way that the deer was shot. Just because of the way the farm laid out, they were going to walk in one direction and kind of track the way that it went. Well, on the way in, Randy saw something lit up in the creek. Well, it ended up being the lighted knock, and the buck was standing there alive.
Oh, no.
So they're like, well, let's see how close we can get to see, where it was shot. Well, of course, it was a little more alive than they thought, and it peels out of there, right? So now it becomes a wait till the next day.
Yeah.
And then, I had called him that morning to say, hey, did you guys get hooked up, and what happened? And he said, well, actually, I'm meeting up with them later this morning. I said, well, I'm going to ride along if you don't care. So I went up and we all went. But
awesome.
They used the same dog they were going to use the night before. But it was shot on a field edge. I don't exactly know what kind of field it was, but he was hit low in the middle. They actually, today he sent me a trail camera picture that they didn't know they had. So, it traveled about 400 or 500 yards to the creek where they jumped it. That night after the shot, and then it went another probably 400 yards where Randy tracked it with literally no blood, and then it backtracked where we did find blood about 125 and ended up finding it. It took a while to work that one out just because it was the heat and everything.
Yeah,
and it was tough. It was a tough track, but they did a good job.
Okay.
The other one was definitely in the timber.
Yeah, more on ridges, Yeah,
it
was kind of over on the bluffs near Grafton.
All right.
So I don't know necessarily what that deer was doing, but he was on top of a ridge where he shot it. I don't know if he was just cruising in the morning or what was going on.
Okay, but it was a morning kill?
It was. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, we tracked it that evening. Send us pictures of the arrow. Of course, I was in Pike County.
Yeah.
So I said, well, we can be there tonight, and... the arrow he had sent us, and you always try to analyze what's going on, right? So he had about 3/4 of the arrow. He'd shot it quartered away at about 20 yards out of a tree stand, not elevated too much. Deer ran off real hard. The arrow came out about 80 yards. He'd tracked it about 80 yards. The arrowhead came out. We couldn't tell if it went through or not. Like there was enough stuff up by the fletchings. We're like, hey, did it go through or not? Not quite sure. Well, once we get there and actually, not looking at a picture, you're looking at the arrow itself. Didn't appear that it actually went all the way through.
Okay.
So lo and behold, Luke harnessed up Ruby and went after it, and it was literally a couple hundred yards down the bottom of this giant ravine, and he had made a perfect shot. He was using a Rage or an expandable. I don't know if it's a Rage.
Hypodermic.
It was a large expandable, but for whatever reason, it didn't go through. So he had a mid-body entrance quartered into the front area.
Yeah.
Didn't exit. Limited blood the entire way. And he wasn't able to finish the track.
And he initially thought he hit a little high, which it probably was just a touch high. With no exit, there was no blood. Not much at all, anyways.
You can put your hand in the entrance hole, but it wasn't enough to...
Yeah.
So, therefore, he made a great shot. The hunter did a great job, you know what I mean? There wasn't enough blood to follow it to the end.
And that's hunting.
That is.
Sure is.
Yeah. So one thing I noticed when we shot this doe, one of these does was the guy was using a crossbow, and those things are traveling so fast. When you talk about did it penetrate or not, we knew it was a pass through, but you always look at the arrow or the bolt in this case, and I'm like, there is hardly anything on this.
When we find that, and we've seen that over the last few years that these crossbows are getting faster.
Yeah.
That they almost look completely clean.
Yeah.
And, it threw us for a loop a couple times when that happened. But now, guys will send us pictures and we're like, man, you don't write it off. Like you could have went through the deer.
Right.
It's crazy. It's just find it. I mean, they're so fast you can't see them. unless you have a lighted knock. I really am a proponent of lighted knocks just because if you can find the bolt or, find the arrow, you can kind of tell what may be going on with that. It's another piece of the puzzle, right?
Yeah.
Or if you're shooting, even traditional or a crossbow, that arrow flight, if you hit a limb that you didn't see, you can see the arrow make a difference in flight, right? Whereas if you didn't have that, you wouldn't be able to see it, especially in low light conditions.
Right.
That does, sometimes the weight of them affects the arrow, but you shoot your stuff before you go. But yeah, we like the lighted knocks.
Yeah, I was just reading something that was singing the praises again. It's probably really needs to be a standard piece of equipment with, if you got the ability to buy that technology, you probably should.
Yeah, it's getting better all the time.
Oh yeah.
So let's talk about this real quick because I think it's important for when we were going out for opening morning, we tend to hunt evening only during that opener. Mm-hmm. That's what's on the website. That's what we talk about when we book the guys. With the heat,
yeah,
I caved immediately. I was like, all right, guys, we're gonna hunt some mornings because that was gonna be the only cooler weather.
Sure.
But when someone shoots a deer, you guys have so much experience and are such a wealth of knowledge. What would you say some of the first steps are that would be ideal? Let's say somebody kills their first 200-inch deer and they want to do, or shoots their first 200-inch deer and they want to do everything perfect because they're freaking out.
Right.
What would the first step be?
Well, I always recommend stay in the stand at least an hour.
Okay.
Like unless you see the deer fall, of course, right? Mm-hmm. I personally wait at least 2 hours, but that's because I, been around a lot of stuff forever. If it's not worth, nothing's going to happen in 2 hours that I could have got done in an hour. So I'm waiting just to make sure because sometimes they just need a little more time, right? That's if I make what I think is a perfect shot. And then I'm going to get down, I'm going to look at my arrow, kind of see what's going on. I mean, we've even the kids will shoot one at our house and, if we don't see it fall, we're getting out, we're going to go to the house, we're going to eat supper, we're going to hang out for a while and, maybe call Tracker. Talk to him.
So that wouldn't be the first time, right?
Yeah. So, and just kind of be patient. You've waited. We all prepare for deer hunting, and all year long, right? We're hanging stands, we're shooting our bows, we're doing everything we want to do to get ready for a 2-3 minute encounter with whatever deer we want to hunt, and you get the thing shot. Why rush into anything after that, in my opinion?
And, and especially if it's a moment of a lifetime, Yeah. Well, it's such a big deer. Like, why rush into it?
It's worth the wait.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So, yeah, be patient, wait, and then, what happens a lot of times is guys will rush into something because they just assume the shot was good, so they'll get down, they may grab their arrow, not really look very close at it. Then they're I got blood, let's go, not slow down and say, like, do we see anything concerning where we need to wait more than a couple hours, right?
Right.
What did the deer do after the shot is another thing, pay attention to its reaction. There's certain, organs that are hit sometimes that causes them to react a little bit slower, act different than they do, if they're hit, depending on where they're hit. So, yeah, it's kind of just slow down and pay attention to the details, right?
Right.
Because a lot of times what happens is the hunters will go out, they don't think about it, jump, they start tracking, they can't find the deer, they ended up pushing it or whatever, they're messing up, they just don't know it. And then they come to the end of it, then they call me or us, and we're going, okay, what was on the arrow? Did you bend any broadhead blades? Was there any details that we need to look at? What did the hair look like? It's stuff that they didn't even consider to begin with.
That's one thing I learned from you guys is that hair.
Yeah, it's a piece of the puzzle, right?
Yeah.
And nothing's guaranteed, but when you start putting everything together, it really, can paint a picture of what's going on and help us recover that deer.
Right. I'll generally I'll try to control the situation the best I can. Right.
Yeah. You got a hunter that wants to go. And our buddies are, the hardest ones on us, right?
And it's easy for us to say to wait.
Yeah.
We're not the one that's emotionally attached to it. You know what I mean?
Right. So, yeah. I mean, for a lot of these guys, the biggest buck they've ever seen. And but when that, you find that clump of hair where, you know, the broadhead, if it's a expandable, expands, or where it goes, you know, I guess the initial point of contact.
Yeah.
That hair, and you would probably explain it more eloquently than me, but it's color coded.
Yeah.
Based on where you hit the deer.
Yeah, a lot of people just think it's brown hair, white hair, you know, and the difference. And that's, you know, I can go into a 20-minute conversation of the hair and what to look for, right?
Yeah.
So it's crazy because the tips of the hair are the only things that are brown and black. And it's, you know, because when you lay out a piece of a hide, the tips are all laying together. So, you know, they look different. You know, they're all color coded but if you look at the base of the hair, if you were to pull one out, it's kind of gray. Now, if you just cut off a bunch of brown hair, throw it in the leaves, it looks like white hair.
Right.
So when a hunter, you got to be careful because we ask questions. You see hair? Yeah, it was white hair on the ground. Well, when we get there, we pick it up and look at the end of them. The end of them are black and brown. So we're not dealing with what we thought we were. You know, so it's just finite details, right? But yeah, if you laid out a deer hide, you'll notice the back is more black. Well, the tips on those hairs are a little more black, right?
Yeah.
Like a
Whereas
stripe
you
down
get,
them.
yeah, so there's a stripe and bars on them. And then as you get farther down on the deer, you know, they're lighter colored, more pale. And then, of course, in the bottom or, you know, behind the legs, you got pure white hair.
Also, you can tell by like the texture of the hair, like if it's squiggly or
Yeah, so he's completely right. Like the white hair on the belly is more of a coarse hair than it would be farther back by the legs. And, you know, if you really just slow down and look at a deer next time somebody shoots one, you can look at all these different hairs and kind of tell, you know, because if somebody shoots an arrow through the animal,
Yeah.
you may enter in one spot and exit another. You'll have two different types of hair, you know, in a perfect scenario, laying, you know, 3 feet apart.
Right.
But, you know, that's the little stuff that you wouldn't even look at if you didn't get, you know, we look at it because the deer can't be found. So now we got to go, why? Is it dead or is it not dead, or can we just not track it, you know?
You wouldn't believe the different times that I find like somebody's old chew lid with deer hair in it, because I picked up the deer hair. I needed a place to put it.
Yeah.
Or like I get home at night and I reach in my pocket and it's full of deer hair.
I've showed up to track deer for you guys, and you're like, here's the hair.
I'm always texting you on a white piece of paper a picture of the hair just so you can kind of see it.
You know, we're putting everything together. So the hunter, you know, if he tells me he thought he hit it a little bit high, you know, did get a pass through and you know, got some blood on the arrow, what's on there? Well, if he's got, you know, a little bit of fat on the arrow and he felt like he shot a little bit high, you know, passed through the deer, the blood trail wasn't great, and we started looking closer at the arrow, and you got a little bit of meaty stuff on there, a little bit of fat. You know, now we're putting everything together. Now if we got back hair, you know, so we got back hair, we've got fat that runs along the top of the back. You know, we've got a little bit of meaty because your back straps are kind of meaty. If you pass through that, arrow looks a little bit meaty, you know, and based on what he saw, you know, and the blood, you know, blood trail's not great. They'll bleed for a little while, but it's a muscle wound, right? So we can talk about that, and then we can, you know, suggest to the hunter, like, hey, this doesn't look good, but if you want to track it, we'll track it. You know, you tell us, we're here to help.
Right. And then with you guys, you got to schedule it based off of how long a deer needs to lie.
Right.
So the more clues that, you know, are there available on the front end.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, is trying to determine how long to wait, because we get deer that, you know, just need a few hours. We got deer that need 12 hours. We need 24 hours, you know, so it just depends on where they're hit. Yeah. You know, guys always talk about, well, was my deer going to spoil? And it's like, well, they really don't start spoiling until they die.
Right.
You know, and we can, you know, we're going to make the best call we can. We're not perfect every time, you know, because, you know, it's just, we're just taking those pieces. Sometimes we don't have all the pieces. You know, we've got that, we don't have an arrow. You know, if we don't have an arrow, we probably only have an entrance hole, which probably isn't going to leave much hair. Now we're down to just blood and the reaction of the deer. So now we're taking less pieces of the puzzle to try to say, hey, how long do we wait? Right. You know, because the last thing we want to do is go in there and bump a deer out where, you know, if he would have been dead if we'd have waited another 4 or 5 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're all human.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, it wasn't Craig's first track, but you were like, all right, Aaron, where's the track start? And I'm like, right here. The dog wasn't doing it. It was Cash. He wasn't doing anything. And then you took him down another like 40 yards.
Yeah.
And you look back at me like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was right here, right?
Yeah, so, the dogs will keep you honest, man.
Right. But even in that part, even after we had, tracked the deer, I still, at that moment in time had a brain fart to like, where was it?
It happens, and that's what the hunter, you didn't intend to lie to me, right? Like we were all on the same page there. But same thing with the hunters, you're all amped up when you shoot a deer. You don't know, there's, you're playing it over in your head and you almost talk yourself into things that happened, right?
Exactly.
And that's why we all hunt. So we don't put any fault to the hunter. He can tell us what he saw, but sometimes it's not really the case. We understand that, so we're just there to try to help. So we want every piece of information we can get, and hopefully it's the truth.
Right.
But yeah, like I say, it's not they're intentionally lying to you. It's, you just get misinformation because, I've heard a guy tell me that, police will get the same thing when they go to talk to a witness.
Oh, yeah.
But there was a lot going on at that time. So it's not, it's not accurate information because their adrenaline was going.
Right, it's more to the best of their ability.
Yeah.
And I had a track last year, the same situation. He thought he initially shot it on the right side of the deer, and after I found the deer, it was gut shot or liver shot. It was shot on the opposite side, and then he initially, when I told him that, he just stood there for a second, thought about it, and then after everything, calmed down and everything, he's like, well, yeah, maybe that deer did turn after I pulled back.
He forgot it turned
he
around.
Totally forgot.
Yeah.
And it's just because you're in the moment.
Yeah. But that's why we do it, man. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. How many times you drawn back on a deer thinking, do I shoot this deer? Do I shoot this deer? And then it like turns a 180. And it's like, oh, that could have been like, I might have not been able to. Fortunately, it just did a 180. And you just.
Yeah. And with the hunting, like, the tracking and stuff, there's people that are for it and some against it. It is what it is. Some people are just too proud to call, right? And it really, it can happen to anybody. Mm-hmm. Like if you bow hunt, it's just one of them things that happens. During the rut, a lot of times them bucks are chasing does. You don't have a lot of time. So you draw back on one, he's watching the doe. As soon as you get ready to release, he takes a step. And then, now you've shot him right through the liver, whatever, and you got a poor blood trail. Perfect scenario for a dog. Mm-hmm. Taste it once again, look at the details, wait it out, give us a call, say, hey, I may need you tomorrow. That we love it when people call and are like, hey, I got one shot. I don't know if I need you or not, but keep me in mind. I'll touch base with you in the morning. Yeah. Perfect. And then I got you on the line. I'm not getting booked up or, everybody's, we got an open book. I can say, hey, Luke, maybe got one in the morning or something like that. So,
and especially during that prime time, that first couple weeks in November, it's just nice to have that little bit of, being ready.
Yeah.
Busy time, but yeah, it's when we built enough clientele, that we have relationships with guys and they know the routine. They trust, they trust the work of the dogs, and they're just like, hey, if I'm in doubt, I'd just rather make sure you come out and find it. Right? We want to find it because if I can't find it in the morning or whatever, whenever that time period is, based on where it's shot, I got to call you again. Then you're backed up. Then I'm there another day. Right. And now it's just messed up the whole process where you could add that deer recovered and back in the, to the cooler and at the locker and done deal.
There's so many logistics that go into this.
Yeah, there is.
You're working a full-time job.
Yeah.
And how old are you?
I'm 19.
All right. So you're out of school.
I'm out of school. I'm going to Lewis and Clark for electrical.
All right. So you're going to school.
Yeah.
And then
I'm in high school.
All right.
Yeah, learner's permit. A couple
Awesome.
You can drive me around this year.
Okay. I have a feeling it's probably not that bad with this one.
Yeah.
Brody's so young, I don't have to go with the fear of him driving yet.
Right.
But, he's been doing the doing the thing for a while. I'm sure
Yeah.
you've been driving off road for quite a while.
Yeah.
He's notorious for driving out we get pretty woolly areas tracking, right? So he always gets to drive back to the main road.
Nice. So we were just talking about how it's archery and some of the craziest things happen. You hit a branch or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
You wouldn't believe how many giant deer get shot in the butt.
Yeah.
Right? Like whether it's a branch or somebody freaking out. At the end of the day, and I'm probably reaching here, but I was just earlier looking at a trail cam photo of the mangiest coyote. And it's like, no way would archery, regardless of the shot you put on an animal, ever be as cruel as nature can be.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's just...
Yeah. Yeah, there's some pretty unforgiving things out there,
So we've talked a little bit about what to do. What are our steps? Let's look at the arrow. Let's look for the fur. Let's see what kind of blood trail we've got. And I think if something starts to look off, when in doubt, back out.
Yeah. Or, at least, and you can call and ask questions to us, if you're
Just for
still
advice
wanting
or-
to track it yourself, we're happy to say, hey, if, as long as we have the time. There are times we get super busy. It's hard to return every call, but absolutely, if I can, I'll walk you right through it, help you find your own deer.
Yeah.
Because, I hope that my experience has helped someone else, be able to find theirs. But yeah, I mean, just proceed with caution, and be diligent on what you're looking for. Don't get too crazy. Don't take, 4 or 5 buddies and just say, I know he's right down in here. Let's just go, be cautious.
Don't grid search.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I get it. Make a couple loops up there. I don't want, if you can find it, I want you to find your deer.
Right.
But yeah, the dog's really, I always say a dog on a bad day is better than tracking with your eyes on a, good day. It's proven itself. And it's hard for me to explain to people until you've seen it. But we love it, man. I mean, it works great. Like, we wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't a huge tool, to be able to help people put tags on deer. And, the only other advice I'd have is, take some flagging tape, mark what you find. That way, if you do get in a bind, and you do need to call us or somebody else, it'll help us out when we get there.
Yeah.
You can watch the dog and say, oh, yep, he's right there. He's on the, there's the flag. Now here's where we don't know. Let's watch the dog work and see what happens.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsors. Welcome back to the WJBM Outdoor Show, brought to you by Midwest Tractor Sales in Jerseyville. We're coming to you from the WJBM studios in Jerseyville, the voice of the Tri-Counties. I'm Aaron Quillen. I operate Monarch Rivers, where the mission is simple: kill big deer. For those of you just joining us, we have Doug, Luke, and Owen Fink of Non-Typical Deer Recovery. We have just been talking about some of the key elements of when you shoot your first monster buck, and you want to do it right. Look at the arrow, look at the fur from the point of impact and the point of exit, and then before you do that, wait, back up, be patient, and if you ever have questions, these guys are available to call just for tips, pointers. Make sure you're doing the right thing. Go ahead, give them your phone number real quick. And that way they can.
So my cell phone's 314-680-6391, and right now we run all the calls through me. That way we're not, because people do, if I give both numbers out, people will be calling both numbers, and
right,
we're double booked and all kinds of crazy things. So yeah, reach out and we'll get you some help.
Okay, that's a good segue, because one of the things that I think it's important for people to know is don't double book.
Yeah.
Right. So in the tracking world, a lot of guys will get a deer down. They're freaking out. They're impatient. They're calling to see when you're available. They're calling to see when the next person is available.
Yeah.
They might be getting, they might be having 2 different conversations, right? Like the conversation with y'all might be, it was shot in this part of the body. We've got this kind of blood on the arrow. here's a picture, you know, and you might be saying, this is a tomorrow track. Whereas they might want to reach out to somebody else, have a different conversation, and get that tracker out there, you know, sooner.
Yeah.
But the thing that I don't think people realize is all of you guys that track talk to each other.
A lot of us, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a small world, and there's going to be more people all the time. But what we tend to see is people that first get into it, they're chomping at the bit to take the track, and the hunter's chomping at the bit to get somebody on the track. So they don't really understand the wait time thing until they start getting some experience, right? Like, and that's probably what is responsible for finding a lot of deer is waiting that right amount of time, because you'll have new trackers get out there and they'll jump a deer, and you know, don't get me wrong, there are times we jump a deer, but we also know where that deer's been hit at the time, and we say, hey, this is unusual. It's been 24 hours. We just jumped this deer, but we need to come back tomorrow. And we'll come back and get that deer. There are deer we jump that aren't fatally shot. You know, so there's just a lot into it, and everybody learns. We all started it, you know, someplace. So I don't fault them for that. But yeah, the hunter always wants somebody there as soon as possible.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, I had a guy call me, and I was on my way home. It was a long day. We tracked several deer, and I was on my way home, and he called me, and I said, well, and through social media, I had heard that this guy was looking for somebody to track. So it's out there on social media, you know, so people are referring other people and just hunters trying to find anybody. And he, you know, I talked to him pretty thoroughly, and I said, I can be there tomorrow morning. I said, I think, you know, he was confident it was dead, but I wasn't. I wanted to wait till morning, and that worked good for my schedule. Well, he's like, I got 2 other trackers called, and he said, one of them can come tonight. I said, it's not a competition for me. Like, the right time is tomorrow morning. You can have whoever you want call. I just need to know so I can schedule someone else for tomorrow. Right. You know, I'm not going to compete for that. You know, you called for my advice, and my advice is to wait till tomorrow. So I don't know if they found the deer or not, but I wasn't going to be involved with that.
Right.
You know.
It comes back to how are we spending our time. Right. There's only so much time in a day. Yeah. And you know, even when you guys get busy, you know, I just try to make the hunter aware that, you know, we're going with the Finks, and
and we appreciate that. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, there are times that I can't get there, and I'm trying to find you someone else to come, right? I mean, it's just the way it is. And that's the worst part about doing this is I have to tell people no. I can't come, and that's hard to do because I know people are calling me because they just shot a buck of a lifetime, and they want to do what they can to recover it, and I can't be 2 places at once. I mean, it helps with the boys now, but you know, it's still we get maxed out, right? We can't get everywhere, right? And we don't know. I mean, you've been on tracks with us. We don't know. We might be there 30 minutes, and we might be there 3 or 4 hours, right? You know, if I think this deer is dead, I'm not going to stop until I find the deer. It's just, you know, one of those things, right? So I owe it to you as a customer, my full effort into this before I say we're done.
And it's so wild. There's so many tracks, so many different things. Like, but you know, to go back to that, I mean, there have been times where last year, gun opener, we had we were trying to keep it simple. We had 3 bucks on this farm that we were after. And so we were calling them number 1, number 2, and number 3.
Yeah, get the fancy names out, right?
right. We were. The 1 buck was like on his downfall. I was so mad at this buck because he had eluded us for like a couple years. So I was foaming for that deer. Well, we shot him the night before with a bow. Night before during archery, and so what was left was number 2 and number 3. And so it's like late in the morning on opening morning, and number 2 comes in, and this guy's like, oh man, like it's chip shot, 60 yards, muzzle loader. And it was one of those, I think he just dropped his gun as he was squeezing the trigger because he was so like, this is over.
Too easy, right?
Right. So I was actually sitting in my truck. I called you, and we were talking about scheduling and stuff. And I kind of was like, you know what? I just need to make sure that this deer wasn't shot.
Right.
And what I ended up doing, because I could get them out there schedule wise, is I got Andrea's sister and brother-in-law
Okay.
now have that bloodhound.
Oh, okay.
And so I had them come up with the two little kids.
Yeah.
And the dog, because I had worked with the dog, ran a couple loops, and you could tell distinctly that
Nothing was there.
the deer, the scent wasn't there for a scared or wounded deer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so we called it, and then we just, I got the information I needed.
Right.
But I think people probably don't realize that about working with y'all is you got to start the conversation, right? And just work together.
Yeah.
Because there's, unfortunately, it's not always going to be you guys.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And there are some other great trackers out there
Absolutely.
that we've used. They've done a great job. But, first and foremost, I don't know I don't think anybody around here has got more. I don't want to put you guys in a spot, but I don't think anybody around here has more recoveries than y'all.
Yeah, I would know. I mean, we've been
Experience-wise.
Yeah, experience-wise. I mean, we've tracked a lot. 11 years, I think. This is our 11th season.
Yeah.
And Luke's been tagging along since he was probably 10.
I've been tracking myself for 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So
what was that? So 3 years ago, you found that real wide 8 in Milton for us?
Was that 3 years ago?
I think it was.
The same year you shot your
That would be 23.
23.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That Cementum age came back 5.5.
Really?
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. He wasn't like a super massive.
Yeah.
He was
cool
pretty
deer.
wide.
Cool deer.
Super cool. Didn't have that big. Body was mature.
Yeah.
But, when that came back at 5.5, I was pleasantly surprised.
That's so cool to be able to see how old they are.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I wish there were more opportunities for the Cementum aging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot of times it's just you were just talking about that deer that you didn't think you hit. You just want to make sure it wasn't hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we get guys that are hunting particular deer or whatever, or shot a deer of a lifetime. There's, it doesn't sound good, and we're upfront with them about it on the phone. Like, I'm just here to, I'm here to give you my advice. I'm not trying to talk you into taking the track or not taking, or having me come out. Either way. I mean, only thing I can promise is that our dog is going to track the deer. Mm-hmm. I can't make it die after that, right? So if it's not dead, it's not dead. If it's dead before, Right. So, but that's the only guarantee that I can give is that we will track the deer that we're asked to track. Mm-hmm. But there's so many scenarios where they're either not fatally hit or whatever. But a lot of guys just know up front, like, this is not good. But I need to know that this deer's not laying out here somewhere.
Right.
And we understand that. So if we're able, we'd love to come out and give it a try. We'll do everything we can to find it, but, we kind of already know that it's probably not likely.
Right. But I don't think that people know you guys well enough to know that really the first step, just start the conversation.
Yeah, call us up. We love to do this stuff. I mean, we train all year for it. So, I've got close people to me like, I didn't want to bother you. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, call me. This is what we when we're not tracking deer, we're out laying fake tracks so that we can train our dogs, right?
Right.
So this is the stuff we love to do.
Right, cutting the front hooves off a roadkill.
Yeah. It's getting popular. So I used to
Sometimes you roll up on one that's already cut off.
So for the people who don't know, like, we use hooves to train the dogs, and we have apparatus that we hook to our feet, and we lay the hoof and so a little bit of blood, and we lay a track in the woods or wherever, and we come back the next day and we'll put the dog on it, and we're kind of testing the dog, right, to see to get it. This is practice, right? And some will lay tracks for other, I'll lay one for Luke will lay one for me, so we don't know where they go, and it's our job to kind of figure it out. Well, we use those hooves, so on occasion when there's a roadkill deer, we'll stop and cut the hooves off and use them for training. Well, it got, I could tell tracking was getting popular when I pull over and the hooves are already gone on these deer. So I'm like, well, this is a new element I've not thought about.
Right? It's almost like start saving the ones from the ones you shoot.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we have a buddy. We had a buddy that we had talked to, and he was at a shooting practice, and he said, "Doug, you won't believe this." He said, "There was a deer hit by my father-in-law's house," and he said, "There are no front hooves on that deer." He said, "My father-in-law couldn't figure out what was going on." I said, "Yeah, somebody picked him up."
That's awesome. So let's talk about some maybe misnomers. The one thing, like for example, something I've seen is rain.
Yeah.
A lot of people are not familiar with exactly how scent works. So absence of moisture, tons of moisture, you're the expert. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that, please.
Okay. Well, I mean, anybody that runs hounds or dogs or bird dogs, rabbit dogs, whatever, coon dogs knows that scent, does better with some moisture.
Mm-hmm.
With the absence of that, it will dissipate faster. So right now we're extremely dry,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been windy, which is very hard on scent,
Mm-hmm.
especially in open areas. And it's funny, you can watch a dog. I've watched dogs track through woods at a pretty steady pace, get out into an open cut bean field, and get out about 30 or 40 yards from the edge and just circle, and there's nothing there.
Uh-huh.
There's nothing there for them. So to combat that, we usually take the dog, heel it, whoever works their dog a certain way, but your goal is to pick that track back up. So there's been times where we had to walk the edge of a 200-acre field
Mm-hmm.
until the dog says, "I got something here."
Okay.
And then you're like, "Okay, let's try it."
Mm-hmm.
And we'll let it go. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong, and we just kind of bunny hop that way.
Mm-hmm.
But there are times it gets really tough with scent. So yeah, moisture is good. So nighttime, like now would be, if it's dry, better times at night. Usually you get a little bit better scent conditions for the dog.
From the dew?
Yeah, just a little bit more moisture. So yeah, scent, basically that's what it boils down to. Moisture's better, but we can get, so rain can wash away the blood trail. The dog still can pick it up, track it. I mean, there's times where there's extreme amounts of rain that, I've seen it kind of go both ways. Like the dog can slow down a little bit if there's a lot of rain, but I mean, one of the worst was the time you and I.
That's what I'm thinking
you and I
about.
tracked one. I was out of town, and that was by the time we got there, 30 hours after the shot.
Yeah.
And Luke was with me. I think you had your learner's permit then.
Yeah.
And I think I have a video of us driving to the Calhoun Bridge, and we couldn't even see out the window.
Yes.
It is. So literally, right before we get there on a 30-hour-old track, it is raining sheets. Cats and dogs are just puddles standing in the road, and
it was raining for most of that track, correct?
Yeah. And when we found it,
I think Cash struggled a little bit. It wasn't awful, but he worked it out.
He works a little bit slower,
Yeah.
when that scent spreads out like that, I think. But it's definitely still there.
Yeah, I was really impressed.
Yeah.
That reminds me of that one track we had last year that was just downpouring. I mean, it wasn't letting up.
Yeah, there's been some crazy snow. I mean, we had one last year in snow. We were in Calhoun, and it was, it probably snowed 6 inches while we were on the track.
That was first week of January.
It was bad. Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, hear a word from the sponsors. We're going to come back and talk about that. Welcome back to the WJBM Outdoor Show, brought to you by Midwest Tractor Sales in Jerseyville. We're coming to you from the WJBM studios in Jerseyville, the voice of the Tri-Counties. I'm Aaron Quillen. I operate Monarch Rivers. where the mission is simple: kill big deer. World champion of the world, deer tracking, dog handling, Doug, Luke, Owen, Fink. We were just talking about some of the interesting aspects of precipitation, lack of, excessive moisture, and how that affects the tracks. Most people probably don't realize that heavy rain does not necessarily mess up the ability for the dog to track the deer. But we were about to talk before break. We were about to talk about the giant snowstorm that hit us last year, first week of January.
Yeah, we were actually worried about getting back down the hill there in Calhoun in one piece, right? Because it had dumped so much snow on the while we were tracking. It was miserable to track in that.
It was cold.
We can't.
Really cold.
Yeah, it was cold, a lot of snow, but you just do the best you possibly can in those conditions. A dry, powdery snow is kind of tough. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you get kind of a more wet snow, it seems like the dogs they almost snowplow with their nose. It's kind of cool to watch.
Okay.
But yeah, it seems like the wetter the better when it comes to the snow.
Okay.
But yeah, it's you get a guy that shoots a buck or whatever. Even during the regular rut when there's no snow, and if you got that rain coming, it's hard to sleep for them.
Oh yeah,
I'm telling you, because I get, hey, what do you think? There's some rain coming. I'm like, we still need to wait till tomorrow. Like it's. I know, but we have to wait till this deer is dead. Like, we're going to mess it up if we go in too soon. Mm-hmm. So we still have, we stand by those times that we have, learned through the years that we've got to, based on this shot, we've got to wait this amount of time, rain or shine.
Let's go over that real quick. So, gut shot.
Yeah, and then once again, like you say, there's so many scenarios.
Right.
Most deer aren't shot square, right?
Right.
So you're not talking straight lungs, straight liver, straight gut. It's usually a combination, So times, in general.
In general.
Yeah. So if it's a straight up lung, confident, you got both lungs, a few hours is probably fair.
Okay.
That's enough time. If you get liver involved, and that's indicated by a little bit darker blood. Mm-hmm. The deer kind of sometimes react a little bit lethargic, so if you get a deer and you shoot him and he runs 60 yards and lays down right from the stand, and then he gets up and walks off or, acts like that, that usually indicates liver or gut, something involved there. So if we think we got liver, we're going to give him at least 12 hours. Liver's crazy. It sometimes kills within sight, and sometimes it's even longer than 12 hours. But most of them die in the 8 to 10 hour period. So we just say 12. And then if the gut's involved, straight gut or stomach or something like that, we're pretty staunch on a 24-hour wait time. And we're pretty confident in that based on all the deer we've tracked. There's so many that we find right at that 24-hour mark that are just passed away.
I was going to say, they're like taking their last breath. Yeah, like there have been them times.
Unfortunately, it's a slow process, and it's not ideal, and we don't, nobody wants to shoot one there, but that's what we say, hey, here's where it's been shot. Let's do what we need to do with this shot, right? Mm-hmm. Like, this is the best let's make the best scenario out of the shot we have. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. But, yeah, that's usually the wait times. And then there's the deer shot everywhere else.
Right.
So there's so many that are, shot in the leg, shot in the back, shot in the, all muscle wounds a scenario, right? Like, those are just a mixed bag. You just got to say, So it's funny because hunters will call me or text me and say, hey, I think I got one lung, or, I think I shot at this or that, And what always, I think, kind of makes them check themselves when I say, what organs were hit? Mm-hmm. Because then that kind of like puts them in perspective, like, what did you actually pass through? Mm-hmm. Because that's going to tell me what's going to happen with this deer, you know what I mean? And I think some of them know they didn't hit the organs. So then they realize, hey, wait a minute, so we talk through it, and I'm not here to bash anybody for any shots, or I'm taking the most information I can get, trying to give you the best plan to get the dog out there and recover this animal.
Right. Not only do you want them to be successful as hunters, you want to be successful with your track.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we love to find deer, but it just doesn't happen every time. It's
Part of
is
it.
what it is. Like I said, our job is to get the dog to track what we tell it to track, and the rest of it is kind of just out there to be found.
All right. All right. Well, we're getting close on time. If you don't mind, go over your social medias, your contact information, and let's make sure everybody out there can get a hold of you.
Yeah, so we don't have YouTube yet, so this might be like a new thing with you guys.
Yeah, yeah.
But non-typical deer recovery on Facebook and Instagram is probably the most used. But if you guys need something, if somebody needs to call and track, I prefer them to text me on my cell, and I'll get back with you as soon as I can. And that's 314-680-6391. I don't really keep up too much with Messenger. I will check it if times are slow, but when it gets busy, text is the best way to reach me.
Okay. And then do y'all do a website at all?
No, we don't have anything. We belong to Midwest Deer Tracking and Recovery Alliance.
Okay.
So that's an additional website. There's like 13 trackers in the area.
Perfect.
It's spread out through Illinois and some other states and Indiana. So that area can get covered by several people. So that's a good place to get a hold of everyone as well.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Best of luck this season.
You too.
And I'm sure we'll be